Okay, so everybody, welcome. Welcome to our TA class. And today we are going to talk about ego state diagnosis. It's a very interesting understanding of how we can actually diagnose or reflect upon what we are doing and saying. Okay? And we also need to know how to assess it and why it really matters. So I hope everybody can see the slide clearly. Right? Okay.
Yes.
So let's move to understanding ego state diagnosis. Now, there are 4 ways in which we can diagnose. One is the behavioral diagnosis. How a person is using body language, gestures, facial expressions and voice tone. Right? So through the behavior, we are able to understand which ego state is active. Is it the parent ego state that's active? Is it the adult ego state that's active? Or is it the child ego state that's active? Correct? Because once we understand which ego state is active, then maybe we can change the transaction that we're doing with the opposite person. Right? So now the behavioral diagnosis is, I think, easy to understand. Your body language, the way you sit, stand, walk, the gestures that you use. Do you remember a particular gesture that you may have used, which is like, can tell you that, oh my God, I think I am, sitting like my parent or my grandparent, or I'm gesturing like one of them or something like that. Have you noticed that happening?
Yes.
Yeah? So even the tone of your voice, sometimes you have this reflection that, oh my God, I'm saying this word which is so typical that my mother would say. Right? Or even behaviorally. Like I remember, I think I've told this before, I don't know, but I remember when I got married and I was unconsciously, obviously, I must have filled some water in bottles and kept it in the kitchen. Okay, like 3-4 bottles. उस ज़माने में तो ये बिस्लरी था नहीं, right? But some bottles I think I must have kept. And my mother doesn't like it at all. Okay, like she just wants the kitchen to be absolutely clean, like nothing should be visible, okay, on the platform. And she was coming home. So I immediately thought that, oh my God, the first room that she will go to is the kitchen. Correct? Most parents, I don't know if you all can also share, but most parents who go to their daughter's or son's home, they generally go in the kitchen to see, how, because the kitchen is like a reflection of how they must be managing their home maybe. So I immediately rushed in the kitchen and I put the bottles in the fridge. I don't remember, but I definitely were not on the platform, okay? So my husband remarked, why are you doing this? So I said, that's because of my mother. Like, she'll come in the kitchen and if she sees the bottles on the platform, she will say, अरे तेरा kitchen कितना गंदा है. मतलब गंदा नहीं है kitchen, but वो platform पे bottle नहीं होनी चाहिए, that way. So my behavior diagnosis would be that I'm behaving just like my mother. Right? At that moment, if a person who was a TA specialist had come to my home, he would have definitely told me, hey man, your parent ego state is active. So the diagnosis by behavior can also be done. Got the idea? Anybody would like to share a behavioral diagnosis? I mean, your tone, expression, which is very similar to your parents. Anyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Rarika, go ahead.
Keeping the kitchen counter clean. With my mom, with me, and now even my house help. It is always spick and span.
Mothers and kitchens, I think Henna.
So my mom is very critical about क्या खाना है, क्या पीना है, health को लेके. So I think I'm also very critical कि इसमें तो fat है, इसमें protein नहीं है, इसमें ये नहीं है वो. So I'm also like her, I see myself talking like her sometimes.
Correct.
Although मुझे फर्क नहीं पड़ता, but observe myself and I feel I do that.
Correct. One second. So one second. So the should and must, huh?
Yeah,
The
yes.
should and must
Hmm.
comes
Yes.
up, right? Yeah, yeah. Yes, my dear Mrinalini, and then Swara.
No, ma'am, I just wanted to share like the way my mom used to have her tea. वो जैसे चाय पी रही थी उनको बिस्किट ऐसे particularly चाहिए ऐसे करना है चाय के लिए she was very particular किस तरह से पीना है and I see that myself that when I sit for chai I want this I'm imitating her behavior.
Yeah. So you are able to understand how your mother still lives through you.
Yes.
So interesting. Yes, Swarna.
Ma'am, born and brought up in a Brahmin family. When we used to have food and all, lunch or dinner, we are not supposed to touch curd when we serve the rice with the same without washing the hands. We were not supposed to touch the curd vessel. So that somehow it has imbibed in me, and I keep telling it to my kids. So now I can correlate that what
Yeah.
ego state suddenly gets activated. Yeah,
Absolutely. Dimple?
yeah.
Ma, it's funny. TA classes ke baad, of course, it created a lot of awareness in everything that I do and reflect. But one particular thing that always, actually, I laugh about it, and I actually remind myself, like, okay, you know what? I need to be less serious in life. My mom always had this habit. कहीं जाना होता था, last minute में जाते जाते, she's putting nail paint on. And she would be biting her nails. The nails unke वैसे ही बहुत छोटे छोटे, and she would put nail paint on, always red color. And I always used to say, Mama, क्या कर रही हो? Last minute में लगा रही हो, वो naturally dry नहीं हो पाता था, तो कभी कभी she. Anyways, Trupti Ma, I have the same habit.
My God.
And now what I do after the TA, I said, don't worry, I'm not even going to put a nail paint on. I don't need to do this, And sometimes in the car, my husband would be driving and I would putting the nail paint on, and he would smell that acetone, from the nail paint.
Yeah.
Some people don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that myself. But there's so many things I can talk about. But this particular just makes me laugh that how we unconsciously do exactly what we don't like and see our
So
parents do.
interesting. Imagine, I think Dimple said something very nice. Unconsciously, we do things that we don't like.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so interesting, right? How ingrained it is. I mean, how our parents are growing in our nails also, that kind of thing. So that is so interesting. I know the rest of you have put your hands up, but let's continue and then you can talk a little bit on the next diagnosis, okay? Kushbu and Veena.
Ma'am, your voice is very dim.
My voice is dim now.
Yeah, very low it is.
Okay, let me
No, actually,
just
since the time you have put on the headphones, na, तब से वो dim हो गया
dim हो
आपकी
गया.
आवाज.
Yeah,
Now
Yeah,
also.
Yeah, this
it's
is
the
good.
same
still.
No,
actually.
we can hear you, ma'am.
Yeah,
We
I'm
can
just.
hear you but बहुत low
पर
है.
पर
अच्छा,
वॉइस लो है
then I'll
और
take it
बिना
out.
बिना माइक के अच्छी थी.
ठीक है, all.
हाँ हाँ
I just thought it was easier for me, but that's okay.
या अब अच्छी,
अभी ठीक है.
Louder?
अब अच्छी.
Yeah, now
Louder,
it's yeah.
Okay,
हो
good.
सकता है.
Now let's move to the social diagnosis. Okay? Now, social diagnosis comes when you're looking at the stimulus and response. So the transaction pattern, how are you transacting with another person, may actually give you an insight which ego state is active. So let us say if you have a very matter of fact transaction, like let's say with a spouse or your child or your boss, what kind of transaction you generally get into? Just think for a few seconds. Just think what is the kind of transaction you're getting into and which particular ego state seems to be active. So let us say somebody in authority. You're transacting with somebody in authority. So we have a context for you to understand. So if I have to transact with somebody in authority, generally I would initially have my arms by my side and my eyes would be a little lower, and then I'll kind of look at that person. So I feel that's exactly the way I would be transacting maybe with my dad when he was there. Okay, like I would lower my gaze first and then look at him. And maybe that's the way I even look at people in authority. Like I wouldn't immediately stare at that person, or I wouldn't immediately shake hands with that person. I would be a little hesitant first. So where my AC would come up, okay? And then maybe I'll get into the mode of an adult. So the transaction also can give you an idea which ego state seems to be active and whether that relates to the way your parents behaved in a certain manner. So just think of people in authority and how you transact with them. Maybe that can give you some insight into what ego state seems to be active and if that is anything to do with your past. Anybody can tell me or share about the transaction pattern? People in authority, like your parents in authority, your boss is in authority. Maybe you may think of your spouse also in a figure, in a space of authority. Yes, Henna.
Ma'am, when I'm talking to someone higher in authority at work, I have observed that I'm generally a little hesitant at first. I'm hesitant to put across my point. I am a little nervous कि पता नहीं क्या सोचेंगे, what will they think, things around that. And then I get a little comfortable depending upon their response. कैसा response वो दे रहे हैं. Depends if I'll get more nervous or I'll get comfortable or I'll get into an adult state or child state or content. It depends on their response actually.
So
But initially
Henna,
I'm very
very good.
hesitant.
So do you think it's working for you?
Not sometimes it does, sometimes it don't. But
Okay.
people don't take you seriously. If I have observed, ऐसा होता है ना, when you're not looked upon as someone they can take an opinion from.
And correct. So this AC behavior, adapted child behavior, doesn't seem to be taken very seriously because the opposite person is in which ego state. What do you feel? When you are in the AC, what is the opposite person in? Parent, CP, adult? Parent, okay. So now does this give you an idea about how you and your father or mother, does that happen at home also? Similar situation? Hesitancy and then slowly getting comfortable and then slowly maybe making eye contact and talking?
Now it doesn't, but I do recall as a child that is how it was, especially with my dad, because it was a very fragile kind of an environment. I didn't know how he would react. So I would be very calculative or be very not so comfortable in putting across my point with him.
Correct. So it is possible that you have grown up, but social diagnosis, and you can actually diagnose or somebody else can diagnose who knows about TA. Maybe people in the office may be even remarking silently that, Henna, why are you getting so nervous when you have to talk to the boss? Like they've picked it up. Has it happened like that?
Not really.
Not really. Okay.
No one has pointed out to me as such because I think I'm quick with cover-ups. I quickly recover and I quickly come in a position of authority or I speak with them from a very normal tone that they can take me seriously because I like being taken seriously.
Yeah.
So I'm quick to recover is what I feel.
So you modulate your tone, you modulate your behavior so that others may not know. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Henna. खुशबू?
जी नमस्ते माँ. मैंने ये देखा है कि बचपन से ऐसा रहा कि जब भी मुझे किसी भी से भी बात करनी है बड़े से, तो मैं हमेशा पहले जैसे उसके दिमाग में स्क्रिप्ट रेडी करती थी, ऐसे कहना है, वैसे बोलना है, ये करना है, वो करना है, बहुत डरती थी। क्योंकि अगर कोई बात जरूरी है, मुझे कुछ पूछना है, परमिशन लेना है, कुछ बोलना है, कुछ भी चीज है तो। और जैसे अगर सामने से रिस्पॉन्स ऐसा रूड फेशियल एक्सप्रेशन ऐसा मिला या गुस्से वाला मिला, तो मेरे अंदर ये रहता था, आप मेरी बात समझे ना, मैं बोल पाई ना ठीक से, या अंदर ही अंदर गिल्ट में रहती थी कि मैं शायद ठीक से बोल नहीं पाई अपनी बात। बट हमेशा ऐसे लोग नहीं होते ना, कभी कभी कुछ नाइस हमको ऐसे लोग भी मिलते हैं, चाहे वो टीचर्स हो या नेबर्स हो, आंटी या कोई भी। अगर वो कभी थोड़ा सा हल्का सा सर पे हाथ रख के शोल्डर पे हाथ रख देते थे या स्माइल करते थे कि अच्छा, या उसी बात को कि हाँ ये कहना चाह रहे हैं ना, समझ गई मैं, बात कह तो दी, तो मैं उसके बाद इतना एक्सप्रेसिव हो जाती थी कि मैं उसके बाद की पूरी कहानी जो मैं सोच रही हूँ वो बहुत अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन करती थी और रिलैक्स हो जाती थी। और ये चीज मैं देख रही हूँ आज तक भी है कि मैं सामने वाले को देख करके और फिर अपनी बात बदल भी दूंगी। अगर मुझे जो कहना पूछना है या मेरा डर है या कोई सवाल है, मुझे अगर लगेगा कि सामने से, सपोज अभी आप मुझे कह दें कि ये क्या सवाल हुआ, तो मैं उसके आगे की बातें नहीं बोलूंगी, या तो मतलब कुछ भी ऐसा करके कि दूसरी बात सॉरी बोल के चाहे बात बंद कर दूंगी। वो आज तक भी मुझे इतने साल तो समझने में ही लग गए कि ये चीज हो रही है। तो ये रहा, ये मैं ऑब्जर्व मतलब अब कर पा रही हूँ।
Khushbu, very good. So social diagnosis, the stimulus response. I give a stimulus and there is a response, and the transaction pattern, iPhone and the others, you can speak for the next one. The transaction pattern can also determine which particular ego state in you seems to be active. Okay. Now the third is what we call historical diagnosis. Like especially when somebody, a friend and you are sitting together, you're talking about childhood experiences or past kind of relationships, then when you are talking and as you are talking, you kind of go back in time, no? And then suddenly your face may become little ashen or angry, or like you may kind of tear up or something like that. So historically also, the opposite person can come to know in which ego state you seem to be, or suddenly you become aware which ego state you have got into. Correct? Like when somebody is talking about their, let's say, kind of teenage years, and they suddenly have this very rebellious information that person is giving to the opposite person, the guest may actually tell you that, my God, I never knew that this is the way you felt. And then you may say that, yeah, while talking about this incident, actually it seems I've gone back in time. And I'm like, history seems to not be a mystery any longer. Like I'm actually feeling what I must have felt at that time. So people who come for therapy, we have this historical diagnosis because they're talking about experiences, they're going in their past. So suddenly maybe a CEO of a company can crumble and become a child. No? I'm sure many people must have observed this happening, right? So this is historical diagnosis. And it's from there that you actually can tell that person that, hey man, it seems to me that you're quite angry with your father, because you're talking like a child who is rebellious, who didn't care, who walked away. So is that the problem? Are you angry with your dad? So historical diagnosis can also help to understand the opposite person and in which, what is the dominant ego state that seems to be very active in this person. So historical diagnosis is a very important aspect also when you do therapy. Dimple, go ahead, and then we'll talk to iPhone. I don't know who she is, but yes, Dimple.
Ma'am, I'm so sorry. मैं lower करती हूँ hand, ये पहले का ही है. I'm sorry.
अच्छा, ठीक है. So, iPhone, go ahead. Oh, you are only iPhone. Sorry. All right. So, are you getting the idea about historical diagnosis when people talk about the childhood self? And this can happen to you. And then, of course, we have, yes, Dr. Urvi. Urvi, you want to say something? Historical?
Yes. So usually, like if we go to all these things, basically, whatever behavior, like whatever ego state we are responding from, is actually coming from our past experiences
Yes.
only.
Yes.
है ना?
Yes.
And so, like as you said about this historical diagnosis, suppose it's happening with a boss, or so we do not actually point out, right? Like when we are with the authority figure, we really don't, because they might not even like it. It's only for our patients or our clients that we can identify, and then we can just kind of help them to see things, right?
Yeah, but would be sometimes in an office setup also, no? The opposite person suddenly senses that you seem to not be here. So it happens. I'm sure people working in the corporate sector, Henna, Dimple, and all these people can tell you that when you are transacting with maybe a friend or a colleague or a boss or anybody else outside the setup of home, they may actually remark that, hey man, did you hear what I said? You don't seem to be here. Can that happen, Dimple, Henna, and the others?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah,
In our business, ज़्यादातर Fridays ko we don't bring out bad news. Long weekend ko we are very careful before that. और holidays के पहले तो ये emotions जो उसका feedback दे रहे हो, जिसको आप बात कर रहे हो, तो ये सारा उनका पढ़ पाना is the way you're supposed to lead your team. So I think that's a very important factor what you said कि वो दूसरा उस स्टेट में होना चाहिए आपको रिसीव करने के लिए वो फीडबैक या वो बात, और अगर वो नहीं है then change the meeting time, because sometimes you cannot bring those news at that moment.
Correct. So it's not only in therapy, of course we speak more from the therapy aspect, but in all setups it can happen. Like you're in a party, let's say, okay, and the opposite person says something which suddenly takes you back in time. It's for a flash, maybe for a moment. Okay, and suddenly you can go back in time. All this is not happening for a long period of time. It can happen for a few seconds, for a few moments. But suddenly that, and the opposite person can sense, what happened to you? Like, did I say something that upset you? ये होता है ना? So this is called historical diagnosis, correct?
Like I will give you one example.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, like, recently, last week, mom had called up and then she was asking me something. And, she has a habit कि अगर उसको कुछ पूछना है ना तो वो directly नहीं पूछेगी. वो इससे कुछ अलग जगह से बोल के कुछ भी.
Correct.
और ना मैं ट्रिगर हो गई. मतलब मैंने मम्मी को बोला कि हाँ तो क्या? तो बस मुझे चिंता हो रही है. I said, तो चिंता में से क्या होता है? कुछ उसमें से परिणाम होने वाला है क्या? And then, after the conversation was over, I felt so bad कि मैं अभी भी मेरी मम्मी के साथ I become like that child who expects her mom to not worry and then find solution, and and then I thought to myself कि मैंने कैसा behave किया मम्मी के साथ. She must have felt so taken aback कि why I got so upset. But that was the time where this historical diagnostic thing happened for me.
Correct.
And I was in awareness कि यार ये क्या हुआ, ये कहाँ से आया अचानक से, But then it happened.
Yeah, so you can easily come to know that suddenly somebody's lost or somebody's preoccupied with something else, and then you have what we call the phenomenological diagnosis. What are you feeling and how old do you feel? We ask these questions, right? And when a client comes to you, right? What are you feeling? How are you feeling? The statement that you just made, do you remember making the same statement when you were maybe less than 10? Or the feeling that you're having at this moment, was this feeling there when you were maybe less than 10 or less than 15? So we ask these questions, right, to understand the source from where the disturbance seems to be coming. And that also can give us an idea which dominant ego state seems to be active in this person. As you know, the dominant ego state generally could be CP, NP or AC. FC is something that's not dominant all the time, okay? But AC, NP and CP means critical parent, nurturing parent and adapted child, can be quite active and sometimes maybe rebellious child, okay? So based on these 4 ways of diagnosing, you can possibly come to a conclusion as to what you need to work with and which area is getting affected the most. Okay? Now let's move ahead. Why ego state diagnosis matters. Why do people repeat patterns? So people repeat patterns, you know, right? There are a lot of patterns that you see when clients come to you, or even in your own life you may be seeing certain repetitive patterns. Why does insight not always change behavior? This is very interesting. You have insight. You are meditating, you're having insight. You can give me a lecture on why you are the way you are. But it does not change your behavior. You continue behaving in the same inappropriate manner, though you have developed insight. I mean, that is quite interesting, right, to understand. And how do we know which part of a person is speaking? So when the client is speaking to you, I mean, even your child is speaking to you, or your husband, his wife is speaking to you, the tone of that person's voice, the behavior, the gesture, yeah, or getting lost in some thought or something like that, you can possibly have an idea, which ego state seems to be speaking to me. Yeah? You can easily come to know that, right? When you come to know and you've diagnosed which ego state is speaking to you, maybe that is the stimulus. So the response that you'll give such a person will not be from the same ego state. Because don't forget the different transactions, complementary transaction, cross transaction, right? Duplay transaction. Don't forget the transactions. So if you want this conversation to continue, then you will have to be speaking in a particular ego state. But that can only happen if you've diagnosed the opposite person's ego state, no? Correct? If you don't diagnose the opposite person's ego state, then the transaction may not be what you want it to be. Correct? So let me give you an example. Like my mother now, okay? We stay together now. So, like, she has a habit, okay, of saying something out of context. Like completely out of context, okay? Either she is not listening, or she's not paying attention, or maybe she's just getting a little deaf, I don't know. But she'll say something completely out of context, okay? Now, I can sense, okay, now mommy is gone in some other zone. Okay, she's behaving like a rebellious child. Right? Out of context. Something which is going to anger me. Or make me feel upset or irritated, or just like say something to her so that she just shuts up. Okay? But I'm aware that she's talking from this rebellious part of hers because she wants attention. Or she wants to be heard. Or she's feeling alone. Or she wants to talk. Correct? There is a reason why she's doing this kind of out of context speech, because otherwise she does not. Otherwise she speaks exactly what she wants to say. Okay? But randomly she may say something like this. So, I know which part of her is speaking. It's that RC of hers that is speaking. And if I tell her or show her some insight, she's not going to change, because I've done that before. Mummy, આપણી તો આ વાત થઈ જ નથી. I'll say that, Mama, we haven't spoken about, like, what are you talking about? Like, I mean, this conversation, what is this, right? I've told her multiple times, Mama, just like, think and then speak, right? So, insight has not helped change her behavior. Okay? And this pattern is repetitive. She's keeping on doing this out of context talk, okay? So, now I have diagnosed her ego state. Now, that transaction that I'm going to have with her, I will have to have from the adult or from the NP. I can say, okay, Mama, and the conversation stops. Crossed kind of transaction I'll have to do. Or I'll have to say, Mommy, what happened? Are you thinking of something? Then I can have a complementary transaction with her. But either I can have to be an NP or I'll have to be a adult. If I become an RC or a CP, then either it will lead to some like maybe she'll feel very upset or something like that, and it'll take her further into RC. Correct? So, ego state diagnosis matters because it can help you in the right kind of transaction. Got the idea? Easy to understand? Okay. Now, what is an ego state? For just the others who may have forgotten the ego state, I'm just going back to it. Parent ego state, adult ego state, and child ego state. Identifying which ego state a person is operating from at a given moment. Diagnosis can be done through behavior, language, tone, posture, and repetitive patterns. I hope you all are aware of this. Okay, so I don't need to go through this, but just for the others who may have just joined in, you have a parent ego state, which are behavior, thoughts, and feelings copied from parents and parent figures. Adult is behavior, thoughts, and feelings are direct responses to the here and now at this moment. Like if I respond to my mother, in the here and now, I'll be behaving like an adult. Okay? And the child ego state, behaviors, thoughts, and feelings that are replayed from childhood. Like some childhood thing if I speak about, then it will be from my childhood. Okay? It's just to revise again. Now let's go through again the behavioral diagnosis. So observation of gestures, facial expressions, voice tone, body language. So this, if person is doing something like this, finger pointing, I should know he's a CP. Correct? Or sitting like a little slouched, eyes down, I should know it is an AC, adapted child. Okay? So sometimes like my mother, if she's sitting on her wheelchair, she'll be like, the TV is on, okay? TV is on. I'm expecting her that the TV has been put, so she'll be watching the TV. Correct? But instead of that, she's sitting like this. So I'll go and say, Mummy, what happened? The TV is on. Don't you want to see MasterChef? He'll say, no, I'm just not feeling good. I'm feeling little not nice. She say all these things, okay? Basically, she wants some attention. Okay, I say, Chil, Mama, I'll sit with you and we'll watch MasterChef. Then she's again quite okay. Yeah? Her shoulders will be back. I said, Mama, can you see what are they making? They're making that souffle. Then she'll suddenly get into this like kind of free child, okay? She'll say, if I was younger, I would go for MasterChef. And this is so easy to be. Mama, I have to also make non-veg food now. That I will not make. I say, but that can't be. So I'm having a conversation now with her. Complementary transaction is going on here. Okay? She's forgotten the slouched posture also. Now she's very alert. Okay, now the bell has rung and my night helper has arrived. Now she will be in full form. She'll be talking, she'll be also very nurturing. Like her facial expressions will change now with my helper. Okay, her voice tone will change. Nahi, Sarita Ben, don't do like that. It is not good for you. All this NP business will start coming up. Okay, so you can come to know the shift that is taking place as you observe people who live with you, and your behavior needs to change along with it. Then work will also get done. Opposite person is also happy, you are also happy. Correct? So this is very important. It's very important. I'm sure all of us are so intuitive that sometimes if the opposite person is in CP. Yet we provoke them. Have you noticed this? You are aware that the opposite person is in CP, but what do? You become CP or you become RC. And then that opposite person anyway was in CP, so wo CP bada. After that you will also become CP. But I want to know that why do we do this? Why do we provoke somebody knowing full well that the result or the consequence of this transaction is going to be unfruitful? Urvi, I'm sure you can say something.
Yeah, because
100% टाइम
हाँ?
सीपी में ही है. अभी कोई 100% टाइम सीपी में ही है.
हाँ.
क्या करोगे?
नहीं तो 100% टाइम अगर वो सीपी में है तो व्हाट डू यू वांट टू डू? यू कैन बी इन दी एडल्ट. वो तो सीपी में आपने रिकॉग्नाइज कर दिया कि वो तो व्यक्ति सीपी में है, तो अभी आपको आरसी में नहीं रहना है, आपको सीपी में नहीं रहना, आपको नर्चरिंग भी नहीं करना है. यू कैन जस्ट बी इन द हियर एंड नाउ, लाइक somebody is in CP and you want tea to be made, let's say, okay? So better to make the tea yourself, because telling that CP person to make tea for you is going to be a transaction that is not going to work. What do you say?
हाँ, वो
शकुंतला?
कभी नहीं होता.
हाँ,
हाँ, वो कभी नहीं होता.
तो अगर आप एडल्ट में हैं, अगर वो सीपी ने कुछ बोल दिया आपको, समथिंग रूड, ठीक है, तो बिहेवियरल डायग्नोसिस आपने कर दिया कि ये बंदा सीपी में है, प्लस आपने हिस्टोरिकल डायग्नोसिस भी कर दिया कि बंदा ये तो हमेशा सीपी में होता है, ठीक है. सो नाउ इट इज बेटर टू चेंज योर ईगो स्टेट एंड कम in the here and now as an adult and do what needs to be done. इससे क्या होगा कि आपका ट्रांजैक्शन क्रॉस हो जाएगा पहले तो, एंड you will not have any problems. हाँ, ऑपोजिट पर्सन में हैव प्रॉब्लम स्टिल विथ यू, बिकॉज वो तो बंदा सीपी में ही है ना, तो उसको तो प्रॉब्लम होगी आपसे हमेशा, because she wants or he wants you to be provoked ना. उनका तो एक ही एजेंडा है, how to get you into CP, करेक्ट. पर हमारा एजेंडा होना चाहिए not to get into CP or AC or RC with this person. ये 1 point एजेंडा होना जरूरी है. So शकुंतला got it? Okay, let's go a little bit ahead with behavioral diagnosis. So, just some examples I'm giving, okay? What you can see and hear. So, behavioral diagnosis is done when you observe something. Right? You observe something, उस observation से आप diagnose कर रहे हैं. Like she's wagging her finger, voice is sharp, posture rigid. So, she's in what kind of ego state? CP, correct, yeah. He slouched, avoiding eye contact, speaking very softly.
Adopted child.
AC, correct. She laughs loudly, interrupts others, swings her legs.
Free child.
No, free child नहीं होगा ना. Laughs loudly, interrupts others. कोई बात कर रहा है बट उसकी बात सुननी है लोगों को, तो
Childlike.
RC. Okay, she'll be in the rebellious child. All right, got the idea? So behavioral diagnosis is what I can see and hear and observe, उससे मैं diagnose कर रही हूँ उस व्यक्ति का ego state. Correct? Okay, now let's go ahead.
Just one question, if I may. What will happen if you behave with from an NP state, ego state with the CP? Adult तो आपने बता दिया. What will happen if you transact from an NP ego state with the CP?
आप कर सकते हो, but what will happen? What will happen? Tell me what is the consequence? What is it that you want? अगर आप NP से transact कर रहे हो with the CP, what is the result that you want?
I want to mellow them down, basically.
So give me an example. Suppose your father says or your mother says, you are going out in the night, you better be home. This is the tone, okay, for a CP. You better be home at 10. Now you are wanting to function from nurturing parent. How will you do that?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I'll try.
That will be adult. That will not be NP.
I don't know how an NP would react.
NP would be like you go to the person, touch her and say, Mama, calm down. It's okay. The tone of your voice will be like that, right? Calm down. I'll be home at 10. Don't worry. Don't worry. These words used by an NP. You can do that. But if that person is continuing in CP, I know, you always say this, but you always come late and I have to be around in the house, I can't even sleep. Then what are you going to say now as an NP?
Then it's an A, okay.
Huh?
Then I have to act from an adult, okay.
Correct. Mama, no, you can still be an NP and say, Mama, don't do this, don't worry, no, I'll be back home. I will definitely give you a call if I'm getting late, okay, Mama? You can say that. Because that's what she wants. She wants to know that you're safe. That's all.
Yeah.
So you can say that, Mama, I'll give you a call, and तुम तो हमेशा ऐसे ही बोलती हो, but तुम मेरा कॉल उठाती भी नहीं हो. Now she'll continue. So if you become more NP with a CP, no, they'll give you many more reasons to actually provoke you, to not let you be nurturing.
Yeah.
So it is better to become an adult and say, okay, Mama, I will be home. I will be home at 10. Don't worry. Close the door and go. Otherwise, she'll go on. She'll continue. Because she wants a complementary transaction. And she doesn't want you to go, basically. So she'll keep giving you many reasons why you are the way you are, and that she is not happy with that. Correct? And then she'll bring back all the kind of historical, all the history will come back. And then after that, you will say, Mama, you're always like that. I don't want to talk to you. Finished. So nothing
I'll be an RC then.
Huh?
Kind of. I'll turn into an RC then.
Yeah, correct. You'll go into an RC then. So it's better to be an adult because you know that this transaction is not going anywhere. It's not something that it has not happened before. It's happened before.
Understood.
Okay. So the diagnosis based only on observable behavior, not impact or memory. So behavioral diagnosis is only done on observable behavior. Okay. Now let us look at social diagnosis for you to understand properly. Okay. This is based on transaction, stimulus and response pattern. If someone invites adult and receives child, you know something shifted. So I am wanting a transaction and I want to invite the adult of the opposite person. But what I receive is the child ego state. Then I know that something seems to have shifted in that person. I'm expecting adult response, but what I'm getting is a child responding back to me. Like suppose if I say, what is the time? Just, Papa, what is the time? So Papa says that, हाँ भाई तुम्हें तो time देखना भी नहीं आता, so that will be CP. But suppose Papa says, खुद ही time देख लो, तो वो भी CP बन जाएगा. How will I receive the adult if someone invites adult and receives the child? So what would be the child response if I say what is the time? But the father, it goes into the child. How will the father respond from a child ego state? I am responding from a A, but she is responding from a C. Simple statement है, Papa, what is the time? Child कैसे respond करेगा? AC और RC.
Like I'm busy.
हंस के बोलेगा, अरे पापा को इतना भी नहीं आता.
अरे हाँ, so either the person will smile and laugh and say that, अरे टाइम देखना है तो देखो ना, ऊपर घड़ी है, ऊपर जो घड़ी है वो तो देख लो. ऐसा पापा बोल सकता है.
अभी ज्यादा नहीं बिजी.
हाँ,
अभी बिजी हूँ, मेरा होमवर्क कर रहा है, या समथिंग.
अरे खुद ही देख लो ना. Something which is flippant, the child can respond. So based on the transaction, the stimulus and response, social diagnosis can be done. So look at this now. The data source. How do you know that you're diagnosing socially? What happens to me or others in response to this person? This is a complementary ego state, relational pull, because they get pulled towards each other. When he speaks like that, I notice, I start explaining myself and seeking approval. When he speaks in a particular manner, I notice, I start explaining myself and seeking approval, which is an AC. An AC behaves like that. Okay? Every time she enters the room, people go quiet and comply. Every time she enters the room, people go quiet and comply. So now I'm socially observing the scene and I'm diagnosing by observing the scene that every time she enters the room, people go quiet and comply. That means she seems to be coming either from a CP and the rest of the crowd becomes AC. Correct? I can diagnose the scene and understand how this relational pull is taking place. I feel pushed into rebelling when she gives instructions. So I'm observing a scene in the house taking place, right? And I feel that my helper and my mother, when my mother gives my helper instructions, she rebels by not listening. Matlab my mother is to say Manisha, Manisha, Manisha 10 times. Then Manisha will respond and say, हाँ मम्मी मैं आ रही हूँ. So actually she's not deaf. She's rebelling. So maybe if Manisha had to tell me, she would say, I get pushed into rebelling when mummy keeps giving me the same instruction again and again. So मैं एक scene observe कर रही हूँ और उससे मैं diagnose कर रही हूँ that how people seem to be reacting and in which ego states they seem to be functioning most of the time. Got the idea? That is called social diagnosis. Yeah, Urvi, you want to say something?
I wanted to ask that when somebody is in adaptive child's ego, like we see many people have this habit of over explaining themselves, so seeking this approval. Then what kind of ego state response will help them, like from the opposite side?
So if somebody is repeatedly, that's what you're saying, like repeatedly.
Like as a social diagnosis, if I'm diagnosing this for somebody else in a conversation, then how do we? What kind of ego state can help an adaptive child's ego to come back to the adult? They are adult.
To come back to the adult, right? NP can help. Nurturing parent. Or maybe FC can help for the child to become little easy because AC are generally tensed. So to relax them, either an NP can help, like the touch, the gesture, or a word saying it's okay, relax. Or maybe an FC, अरे क्यों इतना परेशान हो रही, चला जा. That can also help. The AC, because AC is a tensed ego state. It's not a relaxed one, right? So to relax that person, either the opposite person can be in NP or FC. Okay? So social diagnosis comes from how people reliably change in response to the person. It is a projection of the adapted child ego state. Okay, it's a projection of the adapted child ego state. Getting the idea? Now let's go to the phenomenological diagnosis. Now this phenomenological diagnosis is an internal experience. It is not something that you're able to observe. But you'll have to ask that person, what are you feeling right now? Then maybe the opposite person can tell us something about the internal experience that they are having. This is not something that can be observed by me. Because it is an internal experience that this person is having, and the person could be having a mask and I will never know. ऐसा कभी हुआ है that you are just not able to know what the opposite person feels? ऐसा होता है कभी? Like the opposite person says, you didn't even realize what I'm feeling. Has it ever happened like that? Right? Because the internal experience, only that person knows. You and me cannot know what is happening to this person. That is something we have to ask. How are you feeling right now? And this is where depth work takes place. This is where therapy becomes more deep. So you'll have to move the superficial layers when you're doing therapy, and only then phenomenological diagnosis can be made. So reliving the past is experienced as the now. Whatever was happening in the past, I'm feeling it right now. I can say, as you say that, I'm suddenly back in my childhood bedroom and my chest is feeling tight and heavy and I feel 6 years old. I'm sure all of us as psychologists have experienced clients saying something like this. It's not a memory, it's happening again. I can hear my mother's voice. ऐसे भी कई clients बोलते हैं आपको. I know I'm an adult, but right now I'm that scared child. Correct? That phenomenologically, something is happening internally to me. Correct? Like I remember recently when this Maharaj Ji came to see me from MP, and I mean he's a whatever Hanuman Mandir ke mahant hai, and while he was sitting opposite me, you know, I could sense that he had a statement that he made कि if I didn't have a stepmother, I think I would have never run away from home. In that moment, it was as if he had become the 7-year-old boy who ran away from home. But, I mean, just from his appearance, I could never say this, right? It's only when he started to express himself and his childhood and he spoke about his childhood is when I realized that he was actually this little 7-year-old boy who was trying to gain attention in life. And life took him on a completely different road. But even today, he can say this, that, you know, अगर मेरी stepmother नहीं होती तो मैं शायद घर से नहीं भागता. माँ जो होती है ना, that when he said that word ना, माँ जो होती है वो हमें ना संभाल के रखती है. I feel secure then. इतने बड़े आदमी suddenly became this little boy. Yeah, so internally something must have happened to him, but till he spoke, I would not be able to diagnose him. So I was not diagnosing him phenomenologically, I was diagnosing him behaviorally. Right? But the tone of his voice or the words that he said, which I could see. Yeah? But if the opposite person says something, then obviously that means the person is feeling something deep down and expressing it. Okay? So phenomenological diagnosis comes from some deep-seated memory or intent. Okay? So phenomenological diagnosis markers are regression. Regression means going back in time. It's happening at this moment, immediately. In the here and now, it's happening to him. And there is some kind of embodied reliving, as if he's reliving that experience of not having a mother. So all this, so emotions, some expressions in his face, maybe he may start crying, all these things indicate that the person has actually regressed while talking to you only. Correct? So this becomes a phenomenological diagnosis. Then there's historical diagnosis, when present behavior mirrors childhood relationships. When present behavior mirrors childhood relationships. Like a client reacts to a boss like he would to his father. This is very typical of somebody like, oh, you know, whenever I look at the boss, he reminds me of my father. As if on the boss's face, I put the mask of my father. कई बार ये होता है ना? Oh my God, you remind me exactly like my mother. At that moment, what have you done? You've put your mother's face on that person's face. And so now all your transactions that will take place will be actually with your mother. Correct? And not with the person who's in front. Got the idea? So this is how historical diagnosis takes place. So data information could be, my father used to shout like this when I made mistakes. Growing up, I was praised only when I performed well. In my family, showing anger was not allowed. So you're talking about your family history. Correct? So when you take the case history of somebody, you're actually asking people to recall their past. Right? And that's really how you can diagnose from there also which dominant ego state this person would be in all his life. There are some people who all their life stay in the child ego state. Whether they are a parent, a husband, wife, boss, CEO of a company, they continue to be in the AC. Have you noticed that? And that's what we call a pattern. This person doesn't seem to be changing. Or people who say things like, मैं तो ऐसा ही हूँ, मैं change नहीं होगा, मैं बदलने वाला नहीं हूँ. जो लोग ऐसा बोलते हैं, historically, whoever they are, even today they are the same. It's typical people who speak like this, okay? So in historical diagnosis, marker would be, this is about the past, but not re-experienced in the present moment. I'm talking, they will say things like, हाँ पहले मैं ऐसा था, अभी मैं ऐसा नहीं हूँ. Then you'll point out, अरे अभी तो आपने कहा ये, seems like you haven't changed much. Then suddenly they'll say, हाँ थोड़ा बहुत तो ऐसा ही हूँ मैं. अरे लोग थोड़ी ना change होते हैं, लोग तो वैसे ही रहते हैं ना. He will defend himself like that. Correct? So it's not about the past, but not re-experienced in the present moment. So historically, people say a lot of things. Now, if you compare all the ego states, okay, my mother used to shout at me like this becomes historical. Correct? My mother used to shout at me like this. That means I am thinking of the past, like a memory coming to me, so it becomes a historical diagnosis. Your shouting feels like my mother shouting, I'm there again. माने तुम जब चिल्लाती हो तो मुझे लग रहा है कि मेरी मम्मी चिल्ला रही है, and I'm taken back in time, I'm regressing back in time to the time when my mother shouted at me. Right? So this becomes phenomenological, because I'm not historically thinking of my mother, but I'm actually feeling like that 6-year-old while you are shouting at me. I'm regressing back to a memory where my mother shouted at me. Got the idea? The difference? Good. Then when you shout, I freeze and become compliant. That means socially, the transaction that is happening, when you shout, I freeze. At this moment, here and now, I'm freezing and I become AC. In all, I'm becoming AC only. Correct? But the diagnosis is variable. You are shouting, leaning forward, fists clenched, like you are actually behaviorally showing how AC or RC behave. Behaviorally. Again, we'll repeat. My mother used to shout, I'm talking in the past, tense. The tense with which I'm talking is also past. Correct? In the first one. Second, I've regressed back. I'm lost. I'm actually becoming this 6-year-old and I start crying. Third, in the transaction that is taking place, I suddenly behave or become an AC. Correct? And fourth, I actually behave like an AC. Correct? So all four, same situation, but the diagnosis would be different. Got the idea? Now I'm going to show you some pictures, right? And you're going to help me to diagnose. Whether it's historical, social, phenomenological or behavioral. Right? So just hold on. So I can just look at the answers. Okay. So ready? You can put it in the chat if you want, or so everybody gets a chance. Right? Should you put in the chat? The answers in the chat. Okay, here we go. The first one, She's standing with her arms crossed, jaw tight, speaking in clipped sentences. What would you use? Behavioral diagnosis, historical diagnosis, SD, PD. Can you put it in the chat quickly, everybody? Just write BD, HD, SD, PD. It'll be easy. So BD. Correct. Very good, everybody. Very good. Mrinalini, VD, Swarna. Very nice. Excellent. Wonderful. Let's look at the next one. When he speaks to me like that, I notice. I immediately start justifying myself. When he speaks to me, that means it is happening in the now. So what would this be? BD, SD. Mrinali is correct. Shivani is correct. Swarna, very good. Nitya, it's not HD, beta. Yeah, go on, everybody. Shivani, SD, correct. It's social diagnosis. It's happening in the here and now. I'm looking at the transaction. There's a transaction that is taking place, and so I am immediately noticing and justifying myself. So it's a transaction, stimulus response. So it will come under SD. Excellent. Very good. Let's look at the third one now. As you say this, I'm suddenly back in my schoolroom. I can see the blackboard. I feel 10. What would this be? I feel 10. Okay, historical diagnosis. Very good. Very, very good. Very good. It can be PD also. A few of you have said PD because I feel 10. Okay. As you say this, I'm suddenly back in my school classroom. I can see the blackboard. I feel 10. So it's actually PD because I feel
yes, ma'am,
10.
It's PD.
Okay, feeling is there, which I'm not going to be able to make out unless she says it. There's an internal mechanism, and so it has to be PD. Okay, let's go to the next one now. All right, here we go. My parents used to check my homework every night and correct every mistake. What do you think this is? My parents used to check my homework every night and correct every mistake. यहाँ पे I feel 10 नहीं होना चाहिए. This is a mistake. So please don't look at I feel 10. My parents used to check my homework every night and correct every mistake. It's only till here. So don't look at I feel 10. So what would that be? Correct, absolutely right. It is historical diagnosis. Many of you have put in historical. Correct, absolutely right. Historical diagnosis. When the feeling will come, okay, please mute yourself. Okay, when the word feeling comes, then there's an internal thing that is happening which I cannot recognize. Only the opposite person will be able to tell me. That's when the PD will come. Very good, girls. Okay, now let's look at this one. People around her either become very quiet or start seeking her approval. People around her. So what is happening here? Let us see what you'll have written. Very good, Shivani, Ranika, Nitya, social diagnosis. Correct, Shagun. Very nice, Maya. Wonderful, Veena. Excellent. You've got it, huh? All of you really got it well. Then my chest tightens, my voice goes small. It feels like it's happening all over again. So what would this be? This is easy, I'm sure. Correct, absolutely, Urvi, Shivani, Shakuntala, everyone, correct. It's PD, Phenomenological Diagnosis. Okay, very nice, girls. Very good. Okay, he avoids eye contact, shrugs his shoulders, and speaks in a very soft voice. What would this be, everyone? Let me see. It's very easy. Correct. Correct, Anika. Very good. Shakuntala, Shagun. Very good. Behavioral diagnosis. Swarna, it's behavioral diagnosis. Okay, it's his behavior that you're going to observe, right? And then diagnose the ego state. Okay, let's add one more. Growing up, expressing anger in my family was considered disrespectful. He's talking about, so what would that be? Talking about, correct. It's historical diagnosis, Shakuntala. He's talking about the past, right? He's talking about his family. He has a memory about growing up. He's not there. He's not PD. Right? It's not a transaction taking place. He's expressing anger in my family was considered disrespectful. Okay? Now let's look at one more. When she gives instructions, I feel pushed into rebelling even when I agree with her. Now we're looking at a transaction taking place. Correct? I feel a certain way when she does something like this. So the person is talking about some transaction taking place. Yes, go on. But you're writing? No. It's a social diagnosis. She's not talking about, I think you all got carried away with the word feel. Yeah? But the person is not saying I become this or I'm going back. I'm not kind of regressing. I'm talking about a transaction taking place between me and the opposite person. So it is more to do with social diagnosis. Okay? Then, okay, we have a few more pictures. It's not a memory. Now look at this one. It's not a memory. It's this moment. I am that scared. I'm a child again. It's not a memory. It's in this moment. I am that scared. I'm a child again. So this becomes what is it? Let me see what you are writing. Correct. This becomes a PD, a phenomenological diagnosis. Right? She's actually regressing. Correct? So remember, these are the key things to remember. Behavioral, what I observe. Social, what happens to me and others in response. Phenomenological, the past is happening now. And historical, this is where it was learned. Okay, so this is the 4 ways in which behavioral diagnosis can be made. Quickly, just to make you understand, ego states can contaminate each other. So sometimes it's very difficult to make out which ego state could be functioning. So uncontaminated ego state structure, where PAC is uncontaminated. Okay. Now, parent can contaminate adult. Does it happen or not? You are behaving in a particular adult manner and then suddenly prejudice comes in. Judgment comes in. That's when the adult is no longer an adult. It is a contaminated adult. Because the parent ego state has contaminated the adult. It's called parent contamination of the adult. And this generally takes place when you are judgmental or prejudiced. And your conversation is seeming like adult, like when people debate and discuss. There's such a thin line between prejudice and debate. Like what you're debating about. Have you noticed sometimes in a conversation or in a debate or in a discussion, suddenly you feel that the opposite person seems to others like an adult, but actually he is a contaminated adult. The prejudice is kind of, you can smell it. ऐसा होता है कि नहीं? You can smell that there is prejudice in this discussion that is slowly taking place. When there is child contamination of the adult, when there is fantasy, Especially when people tend to kind of generalize. Oh, ये लोग तो ऐसे ही है. That's not true. Generalization generally comes from some fantasy that is building in your head. Correct? Most wars take place because of fantasy. They may start with actually prejudice, but they continue because of fantasy. Does that make sense to you? Wars may start with prejudice or judgment, but they continue because of fantasy. Oh, this is what they will do, or this is the way these people are, or this is the future that is going to happen. This is fantasy. Yes or no? What do you, does this make sense, what I'm saying, or even any other opinion? Please go ahead. And then there is double contamination, where the parent and the child contaminates the adult. And now the adult cannot function. Fundamentalism is the result of double contamination. Got the idea? Fundamentalism is the result of double contamination. There is prejudice and there is fantasy together. And this is exactly where the world is going today. There's a double contamination of people in places of power. If you think that people in places of power are speaking from an uncontaminated ego structure, I don't think that's true. So what are our goals? What are our therapeutic goals? We have to strengthen the adult. We have to decontaminate the adult. We have to integrate the free child, and we have to soften the critical parent. Strengthening the adult, decontaminating the adult, integrating the free child, and softening the critical parent. This is really our therapeutic goal in life. Okay, so thank you so much. Okay. So I hope this has made sense to you all. And you have to understand the PAC, you have to also understand the contamination, you also understand the diagnostic aspect. So next time you have a conversation with somebody or sitting with somebody, there's a group discussion taking place, it's a great idea to observe people's faces, gestures, postures, words that they are saying, how they're saying it, are they using any feeling oriented words, right? And then base your response on that. And definitely whatever transaction is taking place can become conclusive, right? You possibly get what you want, correct? And then of course understand the contamination part of the adult, right? Because when you understand how things are getting how your adult is getting contaminated, then you'll be able to move away a little bit from that, right? Because all problems come in life only because of contamination. My adult should never be contaminated by either prejudice or by fantasy. Okay? So I hope I've made myself pretty clear. Swarna, I want to ask a question, Ranika, and then Urvi. Go ahead.
What I
Thank you, Mrinalini.
felt. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
No. Like when you showed the examples, I just felt that we'll be most of the times in SD. Maybe when we start justifying ourselves.
Correct.
So that is the one I felt that we'll be more in that state actually.
I mean,
so
most of the time either we can have behavioral diagnosis for our transactions to take place, or social diagnosis, because phenomenologically you will come to know, suddenly when you drop into an ego state.
That basically to protect our ego. I mean, it's basically the ego which flares up, so we start justifying ourselves.
But
So-
Swarna, when you start justifying yourself, then the transaction doesn't go your way.
Yeah.
You know?
Correct.
See,
Because
you have to be
I
a smart
felt that.
person. You have to be a smart person, right? So to be
Yeah.
smart, you
Correct.
must gauge the transaction, how it should go my way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there will
Sure,
not
true.
be a result.
Sure. True. True. Yeah.
Yeah, Ranika?
So I could correlate it to that.
Good, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ranika.
Ma'am, can you give us some very common examples of contamination, people around us? Like, how can we understand contamination?
So like I said, parent contamination. So, how would a parent contamination look like? Can you think of how a parent contamination would look like in your behavior? What are the words that you will use if there is a parent contamination taking place? What kind of words or what kind of
For example, a parent telling the child that these kids are not of good company, you should choose better company, or are being prejudiced by maybe some, I don't know, I'm a little confused here.
So whenever there is some kind of, let's say, right and wrong, like when a parent says that, people who make mistakes are generally not at all responsible. So now this parent has passed a judgment. अरे उस फ्रेंड के साथ मत खेलो, उसके मार्क्स अच्छे नहीं आते. So my adult, I'm a child, my adult has got contaminated, no? By my father's saying this, that ये बच्चे पढ़ाई नहीं करते, इनके मार्क्स अच्छे नहीं आते, ये बच्चे अच्छे नहीं हैं. So मार्क्स अच्छे नहीं आते मार्क्स अच्छे आते हैं, मार्क्स अच्छे नहीं आते, ये बच्चे बुरे बच्चे हैं. So I've come to a judgment about children who get poor marks. This is a kind of a prejudice created in my mind by my father. It has contaminated my adult. So as I grow up, मैं भी यही चीज अपने बच्चों को कहूंगा, that ऐसे बच्चों के साथ मत खेलो, इनके मार्क्स अच्छे नहीं आते, ये बुरे बच्चे हैं. So marks equal to bad behavior. मतलब poor marks equal to bad behavior or bad people. So this becomes a parent contaminating the adult. Correct?
And can we
Yes,
also
yes.
say
Ma'am,
that
Or I'll give you one more example. I'll give you one more example that the world is a dangerous place. Be careful. दुनिया बहुत बुरी है. The world is out to get you. So be careful. This is a typical phrase that a parent will use for you. So your adult gets contaminated by this thought. Correct? So now as you grow up in life, you are not trusting anybody. Because the world is a bad place, or people are very bad, people are corrupt. अरे ये जो cops होते हैं ना, वो तो corrupt ही होते हैं. इनके पास जाना नहीं. पुलिस स्टेशन गए मतलब तुम क्रिमिनल हो. अरे ऐसा नहीं है. So the adult cannot make sense of such statements. Adult wants to be in the here and now, rational and analytical, but because of the parent contamination, adult cannot function only. So these are the people. One second. These are, correct. Absolutely right. Superstitions. So these are the people who eventually in life require what you call rational emotive therapy. They are not rational beings. Because rational thought है ही नहीं ना. With the black cat crosses the marg, माने मेरा तो बुरा ही होने वाला है. भाई कांच टूटा मतलब मेरा अच्छा होने वाला है. अरे पर ये किसने बोला? नहीं, मेरे पापा ने बोला था. But does it have any scientific rational base? नहीं है. So it's all prejudice and superstition and all kinds of things like this. So this is how parent contaminates the adult. Got the idea now?
So, ma'am, yes, ma'am. But ma'am, I have another question here. So I had a client who had an alcoholic father. And when she grew up, when she was of marriageable age, she had one requirement, that the guy should be a teetotaler, should never drink. And till this date, she harbors this feeling that anybody who has alcohol is not okay.
That is a
So this is
prejudice.
like, yes, okay. So
It's a
this has
parent.
been formed.
Correct.
Okay.
This must have been formed when she was a young child, and now she feels that alcohol, all people who drink alcohol are going to be like my father.
Yes.
Okay? Because it's a prejudice. But that's not true.
So this can also form without the parent telling. It can be just your own belief system through experience.
It can be due to society in which we live. No? Because we are constantly being exposed, no, to people, to society, cultures. So we form our own opinions. That is why in today's time and age, Ranika, to stay in the adult is very difficult. To stay in the here and now and respond from the here and now is very, very difficult. That is why staying in the present is becoming a problem. Either we are constantly going in the past or we're thinking of the future. Right? So staying in the here and now is becoming an issue because every day we are bombarded by stimuli which is either negative or which is either kind of prejudicial or something, or somebody saying something, or news. I mean, we live in difficult times, actually, very difficult times. To stay grounded, that is why we use so much of words like that, right? To stay grounded, to stay in the here and now, to be present, because it's very difficult not to move in some other space, right? Now, child contaminating the adult is like, when you feel suspicious, like people are talking ill about me, some kind of projection, people don't like me, like kind of a generalization. बच्चे को फील होता है ना ऐसे, people don't like me, people are talking about me, I'm not good enough, I'm worthless. ये जो victim वाली जो feeling आती है ना, ये बच्चे, ये child contamination से आती है. And then you tell the person, hey man, you're such a mature person, why are you thinking like this? यार मैंने तो हमेशा सोचा था तू बड़ा rational बंदा है, ऐसा क्यों सोचता है तू? That is the child contaminating the adult. And basically catastrophic thinking. When somebody thinks in a catastrophic manner, it's the end of the world. This is fantasy, na? दुनिया को end नहीं होने वाली है. ये fantasy.
So where does this child contamination comes from in a child, like when they feel this way?
Yeah, it comes from the RC, from the AC. Yeah. That's from where the contamination starts taking place, no?
Yeah.
Like you have this thing, no? Common child contaminating would be like, this person completes me. That's a fantasy. मैं इसको प्यार करता हूँ, जब भी मैं इसके साथ होता हूँ, I feel complete. Nonsense. It's a fantasy. It's a child contaminating the adult. ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता कभी कि somebody can make you feel complete. So love itself is a fantasy. प्यार एक fantasy है. प्रेम fantasy नहीं हो सकता. प्रेम can be also with the divine. But वो भी एक fantasy है. That if I pray to God, God will help me. It's a fantasy. You will have to help yourself. Bhaiya, God cannot help you. Right? So can you see how difficult life is? Either we are living in a world of prejudice, or either we are living in this fantasizing ideal world, जो है ही नहीं, जो खुद ही एक fantasy है ना? So to stay the adult uncontaminated is a task. It's really a task. Correct? So the more we go a little deeper and understand that how are we are already kind of contaminated people, है ना? हमारा adult is not free of contamination, is greatly contaminated. But when you realize this contamination, you can kind of push it back. You just develop some rational thought. Correct? People who call us up think that past life therapy can fix everything. That's not true. Correct? So, as a therapist, as a facilitator, as somebody in this mental health field, we must be rational human beings. Yeah? We cannot be contaminated like this, because otherwise, either greed, lobha will set in, right? Or we'll have some prejudice thing that, like when this person came from MP, right? I thought to myself, like, why would a Mahant want to do a past life session? Maybe I had some prejudice, like a judgment, right? That people who are Mahants would be spiritually, they would have solved a lot of their problems, so why would they want to have problems, right? But it was not right on my part to do that. I could catch myself and say, no, it's okay, let me give him an appointment and let him come. Okay, so we should be aware of our prejudices. If you're aware of then you can step back and you can see yourself more clearly. Okay, so this is what we have to understand. All right. So contamination is a big topic. We'll think of having more talks on contamination maybe next time. But today I thought we could do ego state diagnosis. So I hope you've got some insights and understood.
बेस्ट तो ये है कि ये वार जो हो रहा है ये ईगो के कंटामिनेशन की वजह से हो रहा है।
क्या
वार जो हो रहा है
बाहर
ईगो के कंटामिनेशन से हो रहा है। तो ये बड़ा टॉपिक है।
हाँ बिल्कुल, कंटामिनेशन ही तो है ना। कोई सोचता है कि मैं सही, कोई सोचता है कि मैं सही। उसमें लोग दूसरे जो इनोसेंट लोग हैं जिनको कोई लेना देना नहीं है इन सब चीजों से, एंड इट इज सो इंटरेस्टिंग दैट how the parent contamination is taking place about should and must, and how the fantasy is going on, the catastrophic way of thinking. यही तो wars create करता है। और क्या होता है? और इन्हीं के ऊपर हमारे पूरे विश्व का दारोमदार है। वो सोचो पहले, हैं? People who are doubly contaminated are deciding for us. It's a irony. It's the most difficult times that we are living in, and maybe that is why it's called Kala Yuga. है ना? कल माने पास्ट, कल माने आने वाला कल, दोनों जो है वो कंटामिनेट किए हुए हैं हमारे आज को. Actually, if you see it like that. So thank you guys. It was wonderful as usual, and we'll meet again next month. So thank you.
Thank you.